for another edition of the Carolina Contractor Show. My name is Eric Smith. I do inside sales for home builders in Wilson, Greenville. Across from me, the lovely, the talented, and that phrase has made it on TV. It's general contractor, owner of Sure-Top Roofing and Blanchard Building, Donnie Blanchard. How are you today, Donnie?
Doing wonderful, sir. Good to see you, as always.
Yes, and the reason I say that phrase made it on TV is one of the things Donnie has done on the side is he is on season 2 of 50/50 Flip, and that is on Hulu. It's also coming on A&E. He's a general contractor on that TV show. You can see all 10 episodes right now on Hulu, and they'll release them one by one on A&E soon. But when the Polites came into the studio to record a show with us, they brought the whole A&E camera crew, and the line of mine that I was most excited about making it onto national TV was referring to Donnie as lovely and talented, and they did not cut that. So I felt some victory in my sarcastic and smart ass ways that I got that on the air. So for now on, Donnie, you will be lovely and talented.
I'll take it. Whatever.
All right, we got a lot in store today. We got a special guest. Again, anytime we have special guests, we get like finger sandwiches and mineral water. So it's going to be a big show, but I'm not going to spoil the secret. I'm going to let Donnie do that and introduce our guest in a couple minutes. But first, hit the website, thecarolinacontractor.com. We've got links to past shows. You can listen to them in podcast form. They're on all the formats. And you can also ask the contractor if you have a question for Donnie about your house, the inside, the outside, top, bottom, left, right, doesn't matter what it is. If you have a question, give it to him, submit the information. He gets them all. And sometimes we do a show that's nothing but questions. We also have links to our social media if you want to follow us on Instagram and YouTube videos and all sorts of crazy stuff that's happening right now. Again, that website address, thecarolinacontractor.com. But enough about that. We want to get to our show. And Donnie, this is, I think, his third appearance, but would you please introduce our guest today?
Yes, sir. I want to lead in and say that this guy, I'm fortunate enough to say that he's a good friend of mine. And he has built an amazing rental portfolio, probably has one of the most downloaded podcasts we've ever had. And when I'm sit back and think, what's he going to do next? You know, he writes a book, and we're here to talk about that. We'll get into it later, but you know, book debuts on March the 12th. So I said, hey man, would you grace us with your presence again? And I want to say thank you very much, Stephen, for giving us your time today. Welcome, Stephen Andrews.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Donnie, for having me on.
You got it. You got it. It's not every day that somebody from Burlington does something big. And like I said, I'm fortunate to know you as a friend. And you know, this book is going to be a big deal. And when we ate lunch together the other day to talk about the radio show, and Stephen brings me an actual copy of the book, and I'm like, hey man, this just got real. So not only is the book going to teach folks to do what he does for a living, but I think this book is going to be a breakthrough. You know, it's not just something that he wanted to put on paper and get out there to the world. This thing has the potential to be a bestseller. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on today, and I'm excited for the big things ahead.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be here, and really looking forward to what's ahead. Like Donnie said, my new book called The New American Dream will be out March the 12th. It really takes you through the last decade that I've been in this business called real estate, which I'm really, really excited about.
So yeah, everybody likes a good story. No secret there. Yours is probably the best I've ever heard. So I think I'm just going to wind you up and turn you loose, man. Tell us how this happened.
Absolutely. So a decade ago, you know, I started thinking about kind of my time when I was at High Point University, and I took a real estate class there and fell in love with real estate. And so kind of growing up, you know, my parents, they owned a business and, you know, blue collar workers. And I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do. But that class, my last year at High Point, the real estate class, made me fall in love with real estate. And so I was too scared initially to get into real estate. And it took me several years. I started out at retail store management. And when I finally took the plunge to get into real estate, I was $75,000 in student loan debt, making $45,000 a year. And I was so fortunate enough to link up with a local investor that really just poured his heart and soul into me, named Joel. And it was just so much fun. And he was looking at downsizing a little bit because he wanted to spend more time with his family. And I wanted to grow. And it was just the best of both worlds. But he taught me so much. And one of the things he wanted me to do is read a book called Building Wealth by Russell Whitney. And that really, really helped me get me to where I am today, along with his mentorship. And, you fast forward a decade and hundreds of properties later, and I loan money now, flip houses now, and now it's about a book. And it's also about, I launched a company called Soritz Consulting to help people also get into the real estate business. And, really how that all come about was back during COVID. I had several different realtors tell me, people want to know what you know. There's so many new investors, there's so many new realtors, and a lot of people don't know what those basics look like. And so that got me thinking. And so I started writing a book. Book took about a year to write and to get it through publishing. And now it launches March the 12th, which I'm super excited for. And then also I take it a step further. And, Soritz Consulting is a step-by-step of what I've learned over the last decade. And so is the book. The book is 13 different chapters about any and everything you need to know about real estate. Everything I've learned over the last decade is in there. And then the SOARX course goes a step further to really help people out. And that's really the journey I want to go on now, is to kind of help that next generation get into real estate and have the same success I've had, because anybody can do this as long as you do certain things.
I've heard a few older folks say, sorry, Eric. Sorry.
Nope, you
sorry.
go ahead.
I heard a few older folks say, no grass is going to grow under this guy's feet.
Man, maybe
funny?
Not.
Maybe not.
So you kind of gave us a idea of where you came from and this book that's coming out on March 12th. But what was the inspiration for you to go from being a property owner to wanting to help other people, where you could just kind of sit back and enjoy the passive income, enjoy managing these properties, but now you're going to be even more involved to help other people do it?
Well, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for countless people, so, a lot of people might say, wow, he's had a ton of success, but there's a tribe of people around me that have been my biggest cheerleaders, that have also given me so much wisdom, from my parents to my mentor to my family and friends and Donnie. And so I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for those people, pouring out their heart and helping me and lead me in the right direction, so I don't make the same mistakes they potentially might have made. And so that's what it's about, right? Is when you get to a certain level, to give back and to kind of help that next generation get into this great business called real estate, because real estate is great. It's one of the best businesses that you can ever get into. I tell people all the time, tell me something else in the world where you can buy using someone else's money, someone else makes the payment for you, and at the end of the day, you make money, and eventually you'll have properties paid for. And there's nothing else in this world that allows you to do what real estate allows you to do.
One cool thing that I have noticed about Stephen's portfolio is that you bought, and maybe I'm speaking out of line here, but you bought the majority of your portfolio before the pandemic, right?
That's right.
So where Stephen, hit a home run, and I don't want to put this out there in terms of a dollar amount, but, everything he bought, the market was completely different 10 years ago. And, you fast forward to now with what interest rates and inflation have done to the economy, everybody's house value has just shot through the roof. So if Stephen bought a house for, $30,000, $40,000, that house might be worth, triple that now. So your portfolio, basically, I don't want to use the word double, but I'm guessing somewhere in that vicinity that the value definitely went up for everything that you own, right?
Absolutely. I've been very fortunate enough that I bought a ton of my properties 5, 6, 7 years ago, going back to a decade before the prices just went kind of through the roof there during the pandemic, and made a lot of money. I'm telling you what, I bought pennies on the dollar compared to what I could sell today. But I don't want that to discourage people from today, because you can still make good money. You might not make as much money, but there is still a good living to be made using real estate, even in today's dollars.
Gotcha. I didn't mean to get off the subject. I know we're going towards SOARX, and funny story. I'm looking at your Instagram page without my glasses on one day, and I thought it said SOARX, and I'm thinking, this is some kind of angry ex-wife thing. I'm going to click on this and get a few laughs. And, I click on it. And then 2 days later, I got 3 rental houses and, I'm doing what you're doing. I'm like, geez, how did that happen? But no, I'm teasing when I say that. But big question, how did you start SOARX? What was the inspiration behind that? And tell us exactly what that is.
Absolutely. So, Soritz Consulting, I got this idea a couple years ago when I started getting the inspiration for the book. And so, I knew that I could only get so much information in a book. And I knew that that would give you kind of the foundation that someone would need to be successful. But I wanted to take that a step further. And I wanted to be able to help people know what I know. And that's what I've done with Soritz Consulting. And SOARX, I've kind of thought about this. How I come up with SOARX is, you're soaring to X marks the spot, but SOARX is all capital. And there's inspiration behind that because it's not where you start, it's not where you finish, but in life, it's really about the journey in between it. And so that is the reason why it's all capital, because to me, if all you live for is X marks the spot, you are going to miss out on so many blessings throughout your entire life. And really, X marks the spot is kind of D-Day, right? That's when you leave this earth. So you better enjoy it while you can. And that's what gave me the inspiration to take it a step further, to be able to really help people. And it's so methodically thought out, as everything that I've learned over the last 10 years is in this course. And so from maintenance to financing to authentic relationships, to how to know whether it's a good deal or not. There's so many different things that go into being successful into real estate. And I didn't want to leave anything out. There's a lot of things out there that people do leave stuff out. And I didn't want to be that person. I want to give you everything that I learned, because that's what really helped me be successful. My mentor, still to this day, tells me things that he's done where he's made mistakes. And I think in life, when you learn from other people's mistakes, you don't do those mistakes. You might make other mistakes, but you're not going to make those same mistakes. And so I have to give so much credit to those people. And it's really about giving back. I mean, it really is.
I want to mention the Instagram site, because some people, it's hard to understand when we say it with our Southern accents, that some people have more pronounced than others. It's SOARX _consulting to find you on IG. Now, you have a website too?
Yes, it's called SoritzConsulting.com. And there's several different things on there. You can get on there. The course is on there. The book's on there. There's information about me and my story. And there's also more information about the course that really goes in depth about that as well.
All right. One other thing I want to address, Stephen, and this is the Carolina Contractor Show today. We're talking with real estate business coach Stephen Andrews. A lot of people do what, at least on the surface, appears to be the same thing that you do. And sometimes you can get mixed in with flippers and things like that. But what makes you different in the market of buying real estate than the people we see, especially speaking of social media on Facebook and Instagram and even on network TV?
Absolutely. There's this market is very saturated of business coaches and that sort of thing. And when I started to get in this great part of the realm of business coaching, I started doing research. And there's a lot of people out there aren't who they say they are. And so one thing that I learned is you can actually rent a private jet that does not run. It just sits on the tarmac. And they have the windows iced out, and you can go on there, and all these influencers are taking all these videos and that sort of thing. And it's just so deceiving. And so one thing that I've so prided myself on is being authentic. And I think Donnie could probably speak to this as well. I am the same person, whether I'm on a radio show, a podcast, a news channel. I'm just the same person. Like, I am who I am. And my parents taught me a long time ago, be authentic, be who you are. And be genuine. And I think at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring genuine to a market that there's not a ton of genuine people out there anymore. There's so many things, especially social media. You can you get a small little glimpse into someone's life, and it's not necessarily fully reality. And so what I've tried to do is just be so genuine and, hey, this is what I really learned. And that's why I don't leave anything out, pride myself on that. And that's really what the book's about as well. It really it's kind of makes you be a little bit vulnerable because you're allowing people to come into your life and see a side that most people don't get to see. But that's really what it's about.
Real quick, could you give a quick summary of the Yahoo Finance story about you and this SOARX? I thought this was interesting. People might want to check this out themselves.
Absolutely. If you Google SoritzConsulting.com, well, one of the news articles will come up, and they did a feature on me and SOARX and what it's really about the genuine and me being genuine and also what the course is really about. And so the course goes into 11 different modules. There's 45 downloadables that you can also do and print out. There's different worksheets and resource guides. There is no stone unturned with this. A lot of time and effort went into it because I believe that's what you really need to be successful. And they did such a great article of featuring all that. And I'm so blessed that they saw the value in it just like I did.
One thing I wanted to ask, and I'm sure this is on everybody's mind who's listening. Say I wanted to get with you as a consultant, and hey, maybe I really do, Steve. So I'm asking a legit question here. If I came to you and said, Steve, sign me up for SOARX, like what does that look like? How do you hold somebody's hand through the process, and what do you do for them?
Absolutely. You go to SoritzConsulting.com, you go to the solutions page, and you can enroll. It's very, very easy. You enroll there. It is all web-based. And so as soon as you enroll, it automatically takes you to the course and you can start. The cool thing about it is, I break it down into 11 weeks. It's really 11 modules. You don't want to over educate yourself in 1 week. You want your brain to be able to kind of absorb some of it. But the cool thing is it's just over 3 hours worth of content. So it's not a ton of 40-hour work weeks to get you through it. It's a little over 3 hours. It's very to the point. There's not a lot of fluff there at all. It's to the point. It's very genuine. So people can get the information that they really know. And there's ways on there as well, click help, or my email is also coach@SoritzConsulting.com. So you can email me directly, and would love to talk to anybody that had questions or had questions about the course.
And this is a Carolina Contractor Show. Again, we're talking with Stephen Andrews, real estate business coach. He's got a book coming out, but you also, before the show, we were talking about something, the new American dream. And I was wondering if you could go into some detail about that.
Absolutely. So the new American dream will be out March the 12th. It's called the New American Dream, a simple roadmap to purchasing investment properties. And so how I come up with the New American Dream was, when my parents were growing up, the American dream was buying your own house and living in it, right? Now, I believe the new American dream for the younger generation is less about owning their own house they're physically going to live in because they would rather rent, because they want to move around. They don't want to be tied to one location, but they now want to own rental property. And so I believe that is now the new American dream for the next generation, is not owning your own property to live in, even though I do think that is smart to do. You need to own where you live in instead of just renting, even though I am a landlord and I do benefit when you rent. But I do think the new American dream for them is to own rental property. And that's really kind of the inspiration of the title.
Do you see any kind of market correction coming for what's going on with interest rates right now? And I know I don't see house values, especially where we are. We're in this area of 40 and 85 corridor that's merged between Greensboro and Hillsboro. I think it's going to be a hotbed for incoming jobs and just a lot of potential growth. But what do you see on the horizon?
Absolutely. I've said for a while that, I believe interest rates are going to continue to come down a little bit. The experts, the so-called experts, said last year that we're going to go back down to the historical lows. I don't see that happening at all. When you look at historical interest rates, it's been somewhere between 5 and 7% historically. Mm-hmm. And so pre-pandemic, when we were down in the 2s and the 3s, it's never been that low ever. And so I just don't anticipate them going back down that low for many different reasons. But I do anticipate them continuing to come down just a little bit. Historically, also during an election year, interest rates always come down a little bit. and they historically always go right back up just a little bit post-election year. And so I do anticipate in 2025 for interest rates, in 2024, they're going to continue to come down a little bit. In 2025, they will, I believe, go back up just a little bit.
So it seems like if you're dropping this book, it's almost at the perfect time because everybody just got the shock of 7+% on an interest rate. So it kind of froze everything in my world. Maybe not in your world because you're pretty well set there. But at the same time, people aren't picking the phone up to build a new house these days. Everybody's just kind of sitting back watching. But I would think that when you drop this book, March the 12th, by the time a few folks get signed up, and a lot of folks go ahead and get the book and read the content, it seems I heard a projection that June may be the first, interest rate decrease. It's actually going to matter, not just a tiny fraction of a point, but they're saying June may be a good time. And it's funny that I know you didn't plan that when you were writing this book because you and I have been talking for the last year or two about what's going on behind the scenes. And so it's kind of cool that it happened at the most opportune time. So you give somebody the knowledge to do it, and then all of a sudden the opportunity is going to be there, and it's going to be the right time to invest.
Absolutely. And I will say this, that interest rates matter a little bit more for the house you're going to be living in. But for me, for rental property, I never buy a property based on interest rates. And so back 10 years ago, there were several local banks that were somewhere between 5.5% and 7%. And I never got wrapped up in the interest rate. I always wanted to focus more on what I'm buying for the property, the price of the property, and less about the interest rate. Because see, here's the thing. If you overpay for a property, you're stuck with that. There's nothing you can do about it. If you buy the property right, but you have a higher interest rate, of course, you're going to have a higher monthly payment, but you can always refinance. And so I always try to judge a property, if it's a down market, if it's higher interest rates, if depending on what rental rates might be. And that's how I've been so successful in this business, because even when interest rates potentially went up, or if rental rates might have fluctuated a little bit, I was still good. And so I want to tell people, focus less on interest rates. If you're buying an investment property, focus more on what you pay for the property. Because see, here's the thing. You go back to what I said earlier in the show. There's nothing on this earth where you can buy using someone else's money, your tenant makes the payment for you, and you put money in your pocket. And so for me, it was less about, okay, if it's still going to cash flow correctly, I'm not worried about the interest rate.
My question now leads to the fact that you're a younger guy among us. We're all separated basically by like a decade each. So I'm on the older end of that spectrum. So my question is, if I were in my 30s and in your position, I wouldn't necessarily have any fear of going, I'm doing this. Is this something anybody can do? I mean, could someone start doing this in their 50s, their 60s, and reap benefits from it?
Absolutely. So it all depends on your situation. If you're hate to say in your later years of life, we'll call it the back nine of life. How about that? I think that's better. It depends on your situation. And so, there's different type loans you can get. You can get a 10-year note, 15-year note, 20, 25-year note, but you never know. You could inherit some money potentially from your parents, or you could win the lottery. I mean, there's just so many different things. You could sell a business that you've worked your entire life building, and then you could get into real estate. I think there's so many different avenues to get you into real estate. I don't think it matters the age. Like, I really think that anybody long-term could make money, because for me, it's about what you're making money now and less about what you're making money down the road, 20, 30 years down the road. And so, of course, if you get in it younger, you'll reap more benefits over a lifetime, where if you get into it on the back nine of life, you're going to have less years, but you can still make money every single month, and you can still benefit from that.
I think one of the things,
I think it was Warren Buffett that said,
go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
I think Warren Buffett said one time, the reason he's successful is he looks at all his dollar bills as little employees, and their job is to go out and make more money for him through investments. And of course, he's an investment king.
I want to comment on one thing that I've saw Stephen do personally over the years. And, he started young, and I know the story, you bought your first house and then that just multiplied exponentially. But one thing that you've done is, and I won't spoil the surprise of probably what the book has the details on, but I've watched Stephen simplify his life, and I've watched him say, when is enough enough? And basically, not to say you capped it. I know you would still go after a good deal if it was right there, but I have watched you make things easier on you. I've watched your quality of life improve, and I think that's the biggest takeaway from the book. If somebody gets in this, have the end guy. If somebody gets into this, have the end game in mind, because if you get into this and you have the success that Stephen's had, have a plan. It's not an exit strategy, but have a plan on how to manage it. If you have a family, you've got to, those hours have to come from somewhere to manage all this stuff. And I have just watched you really put the pieces in place so that your quality of life has improved a lot.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at the book, the first chapters, what's the first things you need to do, when you first get in the rental business, to financing, to the final chapter of the book, I really leave you with when's enough enough. And so in this chapter, not to spoil it too much, but I am currently 35, and I am reflecting back to my early 20s and, my 25-year-old self. And so how do you know when's enough enough? And so through all of this was during the pandemic and so much going wrong, the country shutting down. And, I never thought, some of this stuff would ever happen. And so you start reflecting a little bit. And that's what this book is really done for me and with SOARX. And so how do you know when's enough enough? And the only way you can do that is reflecting and comparing it to something. And so if you would have told me when I was 25 years old that when I was 35, I would have bought hundreds of properties and flip houses and loan money and write a book and be on various boards, with High Point University, I would have said, you know what, I would take that. Right. So, when you start comparing that way, it's kind of hard to compare yourself in the moment. But when you start reflecting, it's like, you know what, that's a pretty good life. I've accomplished a lot in 10 years where, most people that would take 30 or 40 years to do. And so I know that I'm blessed. And so, I started also thinking there's a lot of Fortune 500 CEOs that are in their 70s that have spent their entire life to get to the top because all they cared about was a destination. And now when you start hearing what they have to say is, hey, I've spent my entire life. I didn't enjoy the journey. I missed ball games. I missed birthdays. I missed family outings, all because I just wanted one destination of getting to the top. And I've missed out. And now I'm mid 70s and I'm certainly on the back nine of life. I might even be on hole 18 and, I don't have a lot of time left. And so I've missed out on so much. And that's what SOARX is all about. Is it's not about where you start. It's not about where you finish, but it's everything in between. And SOARX is built on time, wealth, and freedom. And so for me, real estate's created time where I can have more time. It's created the wealth that I need to create the freedom that I'm looking for. And so, it kind of all intertwines together. And, I have friends that are in different states. And so when I think about what I've created here is I can get on a plane when I want to get on a plane to go visit friends. One of my buddies just had a kid. He's almost 2 years old now, actually. And I still reflecting back, go to Nashville for a weekend to see them or go out to Memphis, Tennessee, or even Mississippi just to see them, or get away for a beach weekend just to try to relax and enjoy the moment. Because that's what life's really about. At the end of the day, why spend your entire life just to accumulate all this stuff just to give to someone else? And that's where generational wealth comes in. Not a fan of generational wealth. I believe generational wealth kills families. And here's why. When you look at a clock, just say I'm at the 12 o'clock hour, I had to work extremely hard because, I come from a middle-class family. I wasn't given, $1 million to do any of this. And so then when you look at the 3 o'clock hour, it's my kids. They don't understand what work is as much. You get to the 6 o'clock hour, their kids are even further away from, they definitely don't know. And by the 9 o'clock hour, you're poor again, or you don't have what the person that started at 12 o'clock, the 12 o'clock hour had. And that's what generational wealth really is. It's, I'm going to work my entire life just to give something else to someone else. And why do that? And so when I start thinking about when's enough for me, about time, wealth, and freedom, it's less about what I'm going to give to my kids if I have some one day. And it's more about what am I doing on a daily basis to live life to the fullest. And that's what I've evaluated. I feel like, you know what, I have plenty of rental units. I flip a certain amount of houses a year. I loan a certain amount of money. And you know what, the book's now coming out in Soritz. I've kind of evaluated, and I feel like, you know what, I have enough. Because why do I need 100 million, right? Like, you know, is 100 million going to change compared to what I might have today? Like, you know, what of that changes? You know, instead of having just a couple hundred units, what does 1,000 units do for me? It doesn't really do that much more. I mean, I could drive a little bit nicer of a car. You know, I'm already a pilot, so, you know, I can find myself anywhere right now anyway. Like maybe I have a private jet. Like, you don't need that stuff, for me anyway. And so for me, it's about family. It's about what's important in life. You know, it's about your friends. It's about creating those memories. And that's what time, wealth, and freedom to me is all about. And that's what when's enough really about. You know, you have to, when you're in the moment, you have to kind of compare it to your, just say your 25-year-old self 10 years ago for me, to know whether or not, you know what, I'm hitting the goals I've always had for myself. And most of the time it's exceeding them. And when's that enough? You know, don't chase a destination, because I can tell you, I've done this, is when you care more about Marks the spot of where you want to be, you are chasing a ghost. When you get to Marks the spot, you're never going to be satisfied. Because when I got in this business, I just wanted 10 units. I just wanted some secondary income. 10 went to 20, 20 went to 50, 50 went to 100, and so on. And I was never satisfied. And so over the last several years, you know, when I started, you know, throwing around this question for myself and I started evaluating it, that's what I come up with. And don't look to social media to give you that answer. You have to answer that yourself, because it doesn't matter what someone else thinks should be for your life. It's about what you want, you know, for your life, because at the end of the day, you have to be happy. You know, if you're doing all of this and you're not happy, life's too short. You know, I think if anything that COVID taught us, you could be gone tomorrow. And so, you know, don't do it for someone else, do it for yourself.
And that is Stephen Andrews, real estate business coach and now author. The book is called The New American Dream, A Simple Roadmap to Purchasing Investment Property. It's coming out on March 12th. He's going to give me a signed copy, and that's going to be cool, because then I'll put it on eBay, and that's how I'm going to make my independent wealth. But seriously, Stephen, thank you so much, because a lot of people will want to explore this, and there's a lot of I'm going to be straight up. There's charlatans and people who do an image that isn't reality. You lived it, you did it, you've done all these things, and you're ready to show them, hey, I can help you do what I found out by myself. Well, you did mention you had mentors. But again, if you want to learn more, the book's coming out March 12th. We mentioned his IG account is SOARX, SOAR, the letter X, _ consulting. And how can people reach you real quick, easily, Stephen?
Yep. Go to SoritzConsulting.com.
All right. If you want to get into real estate and learn how it can be an excellent passive income and really change your life like it did for Stephen, go to the website. We'll put all the information up on our website, which is thecarolinacontractor.com. Again, Stephen, thank you for being on the show. For the record, for a guest, third time.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am very proud to call you a friend, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me personally and professionally. You got the best contractor around, so want to mention that. And I wanted to also put out there that we're going to have an affiliate link on our website. So on our social media and website, we'll have a way that you can buy the book by going to thecarolinacontractor.com. But I really mean what I say when I say you're wise beyond your years, because so many people get into this without the X mark. Their X that marks the spot is often beyond quality of life, and you have achieved both. You've had success, and I've watched you zero that in to your quality of life, and you just have the best of both worlds. And that is truly the new American dream. So thanks for coming on today.
Yep. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Carolina Contractor Show. We'll be back next week with a new topic. And again, hit the website, thecarolinacontractor.com. We will see you next week.